In this day of notes, we're going to learn how to graph the quadratics on our own. So the first thing we need to know is the vertex, which is also the maximum or the minimum point. And to find the x-coordinate of the vertex, x is equal to the opposite of b over 2a. To find the y-coordinate of the vertex, you're going to plug the x-coordinate, which you found from here, into your equation and solve for y. And I'll show you how all that's done as we go through example 1. X-intercepts, zeros, and solutions are all the same things when it comes to a quadratic equation. To find x-intercepts, zeros or solutions, you're going to set y or f of x equal to 0, and then you're going to solve for x using either the factoring method that you've learned or the quadratic formula. And then finally the y-intercept. To find the y-intercept, you're going to set x equal to 0 and solve for y. So let's take a look at example 1. It says for the function f of x equals 2x squared minus 8x minus 4, find the vertex and 4 additional points, 2 on each side of the vertex, then graph the function. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find that vertex. And to find the vertex, we're going to start by finding the x-coordinate of the vertex. So x is equal to, from that formula above, the opposite of b over 2 times a. Now, the opposite of b is coming from our formula, just like when we were doing the quadratic formula. A is in front of x squared, b is in front of x, and c is our constant. So b in this case is negative 8, and we want the opposite of negative 8, which is going to be a positive 8, divided by 2 times our a value. Our a value is the one in front of the x squared, which is 2. And then simplify that. We have 8 divided by 4, which is 2. So that tells us that the x-coordinate of our vertex is 2. And then what we need to do is we need to find the y-coordinate. So to find the y-coordinate, or f of x, remember f of x is the same thing as y. And so what we're going to do in our equation that we have here, the 2x squared minus 8x minus 4, we're going to take the x that we found, which is 2, and we're going to plug it in for both of those x's. So we get 2 times 2 squared minus 8 times 2 minus 4. And if we plug that into the calculator, you should see you get negative 12, which means we have our vertex, which is the point 2 comma negative 12. We know that this function is going to open up because it's a positive leading coefficient, so that helps us know that our graph is going to look something like this, meaning this is going to be the lowest point of our graph. When we fill out our table, we're always going to put the vertex in the middle of that table. So I have 2, negative 12. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to find some other points. So I'm going to find 2 on this side and 2 on this side of my 2. So going down from 2, points that would be good would be something like 1 and 0, and going up would be 3 and 4. And to find these points, all you need to do is plug the numbers in for x to get the y value. An easy way to do that is to use your graphing calculators, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. So to fill out the graphing calculator, you can see my graphing calculator over here on the right. You're going to start by going to your y equals, which is right here. And you're going to type in the equation exactly how it looks. So this 2x squared minus 8x minus 4 should be in your y1. So I'm going to type in 2. My x is that number right next to the alpha key, so this xt theta n button. And then I'm going to raise it to the second power. And my exponent key is right here. So I raise it to the second power. And then make sure you get out of the exponent, hit the right arrow key. Minus 8x and minus 4. Once you have your equation in there, then what we want to do is we want to look at the table. Well, the table functions over here in blue. Anything in blue on the calculator tells us that we have to hit this second key first. So I'm going to hit second and then graph. And if you take a look, my calculator is not where I want it to be. So I can change that by using my table set function. So I'm going to go to second table set, which is right here. And I want my table to start at 0. And this next part, this change of table, I want it to go up by 1s. Now when I go back to my table, hitting second and graph, I'm starting with smaller numbers that I can take a look at. And you can change that table set at any point in time to go up by a different number if you want to go up by 5s or 10s or whatever, and we can work through that. But for now, for the most part, what you'll need for Algebra 1 is just to start at 0 and go up by 1s. But I can grab my points off of here. So if I have x is 0, which is my first one I want here, the y value is the one right next to it, which is -4. So then I can go ahead and put -4 in for y. Then if I look at 1 and I go to the right, I get a y value of -10. So I can put -10. And then scrolling down, I have 2 and -12, which verifies that my vertex is correct. Then I have 3 and -10. And I have 4 and -4. And I can fill those in my table. Now that I have my table filled out, I want to go ahead and plot those points on my graph. So I have the point 0, -4, so I'll plot that, which is right here. Then the point 1, -10, which is right here. The point 2, -12. The point 3, -10. And 4, -4. Notice that my points are forming that U-shaped, so I'm going to go ahead and curve it as it goes up and to the right and as it goes up and to the left. One thing, make sure that your graph never comes straight up. They do not turn into vertical lines, so you always want to make sure that they are curving. They're going on a slight diagonal to the left and to the right. Nothing where it's going straight up, as you will lose points on that test. If you have questions on this, let me know. Otherwise, why don't you move to the try this? So we can try that. So go ahead and pause it now. Unpause it when you're ready to check your answer. If you did the try this correctly, your table should be something similar to -4 and 1, -3 and 10, your vertex being -2 and 13, and then -1 and 10, and 0 and 1. Now, you don't necessarily have to have -3 and -4 or -1 and 0. You just have to have any two numbers that will fit on your graph that are smaller than -2 and two that are bigger than -2. You should have your vertex of -2, 13, though. And then if you go ahead and graph this, you have -4 and 1, -3 and 10, -2 and 13, -1 and 10, and then 0 and 1. Notice that this graph is opening down, and that's because our leading coefficient is negative. And remember, your parabola should always go out on a diagonal, not straight and turn into vertical lines. If you have questions on this, let me know. Otherwise, you can move on to example 2.